Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
All right, Danny, I'm going to let you start us off.
Good morning, everyone. So happy to see all of you here. This is just a point of connection for us. Could we please introduce ourselves in the chat? You can just put your name and the name and grades of your children. And so last week, we ended the session with some homework, goals, and intentions that we could revisit. And so last week, I covered some stuff about routine structures that we could place at home to help students thrive, especially children. So one was to examine the study area to see if it was a space that was going to be productive and clean cut. So lighting, distractions, and all of that. And then the second thing that I kind of covered was the different types of schedules, or if there is a set schedule that your child or children can follow throughout the day. And so the different resources were setting up a study space for children, a routine, and then a digital planner. Now that I see on there, it does not have a hyperlink, so we will get that on there. Thanks, Chris. Am I doing this one, Chris?
You can, or I can.
Yeah, can you do this one?
I'll take it.
Yes.
So this is from our favorite breathing GIF website. It's called De-Stress Monday. We know we need to de-stress on many, many, many days of the week, but this is a wonderful snow globe. And so the idea for our kids and the adults is that you take a really deep breath. You see all of your negative feelings, which hopefully on a Wednesday morning we don't have too many, and then they just flow down like the snow in a snow globe. And when they arrive on the ground, hopefully you've had a minute to let some of those feelings go. And so this is a tool that we use in our guidance lessons and that we've shared with your children's teachers to use as a brain break, or if the children are dysregulating. And it can be a fun way to look at it with your child and talk about how maybe you have some negative feelings in the moment and how those can all just sift away, just like the snow in a snow globe. So today we're going to do a bit of a roundup of the last 6 weeks of our parent chats, just to remind people of the things that we've been working through, maybe spark some interest in revisiting some of those topics and making some commitments to changing over the next few weeks. But first, just wanted to talk about wellness. And there are many different models of wellness and well-being, but this was the basics to help all of us. And so the idea is that every day we move, we nourish, we connect, and then we just be. And that's to tie us into the first session that we had where Danny talked about stress. And so one of the things to think about is, what are you doing for yourself and your children in all four of these areas? And we know even in the last 24 hours, being able to get outside, having playgrounds opened, having sports areas opened, that the move part could be a little bit easier for many of us, and that we want to encourage people to take that opportunity to get outside, either by yourself or with your children, and just move around, because we know that, especially with this gorgeous weather in Hanoi, that can really support regulation. And now that more restaurants are open, our healthy meals may have expanded in their variety, and that we can gather in groups of 10 or less. So to really kind of try and reach out and get that social support in person, if possible. I know that there's still, some 5Ks and that sort of thing, but we want to make sure we're trying while we can to connect in person, and then to still find that time to just be and focus on self-care. And so just for yourselves, we do this with our students as well. We use the zones, but we also use a visual like this. It's just for you in our meeting right now to figure out, where are you at? And this is a mental health check-in. And then figuring out, if you're starting to struggle, having a hard time, or you need support, it's reaching out to someone in your support network to have a chat, reaching out to a counselor or a therapist, making sure that you as a parent are taking care of your own mental health, so that you can focus on the mental health of your children. And the reason why I keep saying mental health is because October 10th is World Mental Health Day. And that's one of the suggestions for our homework today, is to talk about that with your children so that they have a better understanding of what mental health is and how important it is to take care of your mental health and the mental health of your children. So our reflection from the very first sessions was talking about stress. And at that moment, we were still in lockdown. We had just started distance learning, and we were all feeling a bit overwhelmed by all of the tasks. When I saw this GIF that Danny put in, it made me have a chuckle, but I think at times many of us still feel that way. So if you want to pop a reaction, you don't need to put something into the chat, but if you felt that way, if you can show us a thumbs up, or if you're still feeling that way. And so that's the question, is how are you responding to stress in this moment with the changes that are arising, and think about the well-being and what are some ways that you can introduce or keep working on in your house to help reduce that stress, knowing that we can pass that stress on to our children. And then just a reminder that our children, they're like sponges, so they pick up on everything. So with the changes that are happening and settling into routines of distance learning, we know that some of our children are not settling into the routines of distance learning. And in fact, the stress levels for parents are only getting greater the longer that we're in distance learning. So while we like to say that we've got this and we're doing it and our routines are in place because everybody listened to Danny last week and tightened up their routines again, we know that for some children and families, this is still very, very difficult. It's a roller coaster that we're trying to ride together. So if you reach that point, please make sure that you reach out to your child's teacher to find out how that they can support you with your child's distance learning, and to Danny and myself. After we looked at that, we talked about the SEAT acronym, and that's just for those moments when your children are possibly dysregulating or having some difficult behaviors, and how you manage those in the moment. And so remember, going back to that well-being, if we're setting ourselves up for success by taking care of ourselves through exercise and healthy eating and social connection, and then that time alone to recharge, we want to be able to be there for our children. So I just made this acronym a little bit bigger. And so it's, again, the first part is checking in with yourself. And so you know if you can engage with your child when they're dysregulating, showing your child that you have empathy for them. I can see you're feeling this way. How can I help you? Let's be together until this feeling passes. And then you can help them with regulation once you're both in a calm spot. Let's figure out how we would have done that differently. I'm going to tell you how I would have gone about it, and maybe we can think about a way that you can react next time in a different way. And the fourth one is practice those skills that you're working on with your child. As Danny said last week about routines can take a long time, up to 6 weeks, to become ingrained. And so as you're looking at changing those routines or tweaking them, setting reasonable expectations for yourself and your child, and then just attacking one small part of that per day and celebrating your successes. We often talk about sleep and the importance of getting to bed early so that your children are ready for the day. And we know that changing a bedtime can be quite an arduous task. And so we don't say go from a 10 o'clock bedtime to a 7 o'clock bedtime in one fell swoop. You dial it back a little bit each day and then celebrate as your child is winding down earlier or able to get into bed and get more sleep. Danny walked us through the name it to tame it and then guided storytelling. And so name it to tame it is also a way to build empathy with your child and express that if they aren't able to do that in the moment. And so it helps them feel understood and that their experience is valued. And so it's naming that feeling. And then once it's been named, hopefully it loses some of its steam. And then there's also guided storytelling, which is a really good tool, especially online for distance learning, because your children are still having feelings and emotions about their interactions with their peers and their teachers. And so it may be, I was talking to a colleague yesterday about the internet and how troublesome that can be. So it may be saying, I saw that you were online yesterday and you got kicked out 3 times. how did that feel when that happened for you? Oh, okay, so you were really frustrated. Okay, me too. What could we do to deal with that frustration about being kicked out of our Zoom lessons? And so you're helping give words to that experience. Because a lot of times children are very frustrated by technology, and it just adds to their stress about distance learning, much like the parents. So, sorry, love this gift. Thinking about how as parents, because you know your children better than anyone, and we're currently only seeing them on screens, but how when your children are having strong emotions. In our guidance lessons, we talk a lot with our children about naming emotions and being able to talk about that none of the emotions we feel are bad. It's how we show them, how we experience them, how we react to them. And so we talk to kids about the differences. Some people show anger by going silent and turning red. Others have more explosive ways of showing that. And so it's recognizing when your children are going out of that green or yellow zone and really into the red. And then thinking about continuing to build your emotional vocabulary that you use to work with them and how they can communicate that to you. Oftentimes kids will say, I'm bored. And that's one that drives parents really crazy because we have a hard time understanding, with all of the things that we've provided for our children and the wonderful learning that's going on, how on earth could you be bored? We know that bored is just a go-to phrase for many children until they can name the actual feeling, which is, I'm frustrated. The teacher didn't call on me. This is too hard for me. This is too easy for me. I miss my friends and really I want to socialize. So we have to dig a little bit deeper and then help our children have the vocabulary around the actual feeling that they're having. And that can take time. So we have to work through that with them. We then visited on the zones, and this is the language that we use at our school to help children express their emotions. And it's a way for us to hang the emotional vocabulary that we're teaching onto a wider concept. So for many of our kids, they might not be able to explain, I'm feeling really frustrated right now, but they could say, I'm in the yellow zone. And then we can help them by digging a little bit deeper. Are you feeling silly? Is it like a this kind of emotion? Are you really frustrated about something? Where are we at in the yellow zone? And it helps you as a parent and us as teachers to know how to support that child as they regulate back down to the green zone. We talked about modeling this for your children over and over again, which is being able to say to your child, I'm in the yellow zone right now because I'm feeling a bit frustrated about what's happening in our house. I see toys all over the place. I see things that haven't been picked up. And so one of the things I'm going to do to get myself back into the yellow zone is I'm going to go pick up 5 things, and I need your help with that so we can do it together. And so you've labeled a feeling for your child, and then you've given them a strategy that you're using to help regulate back down to the green zone. So it's using this in your homes to help, and then that's mirrored at school in the language that we use. We then talked about expectations. And Danny's examples were really helpful for me, thinking about oftentimes it's, well, look at the screen. Don't get distracted. Focus on this, focus on that. And it's thinking about the environment that your children are in a classroom or at home, and what does focus mean? Does it mean that maybe your child needs help to clear their environment that they're working in, so there aren't toys and different things all around them to support that? Do they need a fidget in their hand that they can hold while they're on Zoom so that they have something to do? Because that's a tool that we oftentimes use with our students in class, regardless of if they're in EY3 or in grade 5. So what are your expectations for your child during all points of the day, and how have you communicated that to them? And then the routines. And we talk a lot in our team and in our classes about kids thrive on predictability, and they thrive on knowing what's coming next, because it gives them an amount of control in an environment that they feel they have no control over. And so by having that routine, and then you as the adults helping them follow it and follow it yourself, it helps give our children that space to make decisions within allotted times. And then of course I go back to sleep always, the bedtime routine. working on that and making sure that it's really firmly in place for school night so that your children are set up for success in the morning when they head towards their morning meeting.
All right. Thanks, Chris. I love squeezing in Calvin and Hobbes whenever it is relevant. And so if you could just take a minute to read this strip. And so I know Chris mentioned mental health day is coming up, and obviously sometimes it's all about balance and prioritizing. And in times of distance learning, I feel like sometimes we forget about our own mental health and the things that are happening around us that does bring us joy. And for kids as well, I just really want to highlight that, things are opening up. And so it might seem like, we might want to prioritize, oh, now that, we can do this, we can do that, you can go to tutoring, maybe you can do this, but also think about mental health and the different venues that they can start engaging with. If it's small play dates, to bring joy into their lives, and not just the kids, but for you as well. Like, what are you doing to take care of yourself? Are you trying to organize some things to meet people? Are you doing things to take care of yourself so that you are at a place where you can be green and that you have someone to talk to? So I'll transition to the homeworks, Chris. Thanks. So homeworks and goals and intention for this week. Plan for your well-being and well-being of your children. Things are definitely looking better in Hanoi, especially with the restrictions lifting. I see so many bikers that are cycling around Westlake. I see a bunch of, I don't know what they're called, like exercises that they're gathering and that they're doing. So there are definitely more avenues that are opening up. So not just for you, but for your children as well. Think about well-being and what you can do to enhance at home and outside of home. And observe World Mental Health Day. And mental health is something that's very big because it was heavily stigmatized for so long, but many people are coming to realize and recognize how important it is, whether it's for work, whether it's for home life. Our mental health, our own mental health plays a big role in all of those different things that we touch upon in our lives. So there are some resources for you. Keys to Well-being. This is a great resource. I clicked through it. There's some quizzes that you can do, and it walks you through 12 foundational components that you can actually kind of look through and learn more about the different types of well-being that there are. Save the Children, World Mental Health Day. These are also very good resources for you to skim through and learn more about mental health and how important it is to all of our livelihoods. And for us as adults to be able to role model that for the kids, it'll have longer lasting impacts as they grow up as well. Chris, do you want to add anything onto this?
Oh, just that we really appreciate you coming, and we appreciate your feedback and your questions if you have any. These sessions are pretty one-sided where we're talking at you, and we understand that some people prefer just to take in this information and think about it. So we appreciate that. If you do have questions though, please reach out. We want to make sure that we've impressed upon you that we're here to support you and your children. And that's it.